Beverly Hills. Ja, that's where you want to be. Yeah, Ja, I think this is your first time coming over here with me, actually. Decided to start over here because today's vlog is all about my good friend Shelley Winters and my relationship, knowing her as a friend and everything. And her house was actually right across this median over here. Now, when I looked it up on Google Earth and Google Maps, it's surrounded by fencing, which means it's gonna come down. And I'm hoping to see it one last time and tell you some stories before they tear it down. You know, it's either by like a weird twist of fate or just, you know, I guess it was maybe just meant to be that I had a delivery job for Jerry's Famous Deli. At the time, I had went to music school and I was recording and writing music, and I had a band, and we were making what was going to be our first major release. And so I had taken a job at Jerry's Famous Deli delivering food where I could work 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., have my nights free for my band. One day at the Beverly Hills Rehab Hospital over on San Vicente and 6th Street, I get a delivery for a woman named Patricia. And when I show up to the room, the name on the door was actually Shelley Winters, the famous actress. I didn't have Ja when I knew Shelley, and so Ja's never been over to Shelley's house. This will be his first and probably last time ever going over there. She would have loved him. So she was right here on this little street. We have to go around the corner to get to it, right by here. So this is Shelley Street. Pay attention. You notice lots of big apartment buildings. I was shocked the first time I came over here to her house when we brought her home from the rehab hospital, because I expected her to live in, like, you know, Beverly Hills proper. It was all mansions. You notice here it's a lot of, there's a couple of duplexes here, a lot of high-rise apartments. Oh my gosh, her house is still here. Yes. Oh, God love her. I can't believe it's still here. I'm really glad it's still here. She never I mean, she'd be shocked if she knew it was still here. She was a very sweet woman to me. I know a lot of people throughout time that I've met and told that I was friends with Shelley Winters. I just can't believe how overgrown this is and everything. They're like, man, she was known to be pretty mean, or they'd say they met her in New York and she was very mean to him. I said, I never got to see that side of her. She was nothing but always sweet and nice to me. That was her home. A duplex. I'll explain why she bought this house and also kind of retell you how I met her and some of the experiences I had here, her birthday parties that we had here, and who I met here that scared me to death when I was down there getting an hors d'oeuvre at the hors d'oeuvre table. He popped his head over the fence. I'll tell you all that stuff while we're here. So one day, like I told you, I got this call for this delivery, and it was for a woman named Patricia. When I got to the door said Shelley Winters, and when I walked in, I knew right away it was the Shelley Winters. I immediately thought of her as Nana Mary from Roseanne. So when I walked in there, at the time I had long hair about down to my chin, and at the time Jerry Famous Deli's policy was if your hair could be put into a ponytail, then you had to, even if you were a delivery driver. So I walked into her room to bring the food, and I had my hair in a ponytail. My hair was very shiny and blonde, and she looked at me, and first thing she said was, "Honey, you have the best head of hair I've ever seen." I turned around, I was like, "Thank you very much." And she goes, "I'm a famous actress. You probably don't even know who I am, but I'm a famous actress, and I'm a famous teacher, acting teacher." I go, "I know exactly who you are. You're Nana Mary from Roseanne." She goes, "That's not really me, though. You need to see me in The Diary of Anne Frank or A Place in the Sun." I said, "Well, I know you from Poseidon Adventure," and she just kind of like shrugged that off. But we started talking, and she said, "You know, are you an actor?" I said, "No, I'm a musician. I have a band and everything." And she said, "You're supposed to be an actor." She said, "You are instantly likable, And I think that you're wasting your time if you do anything other than something on your own. And I had the band and everything then, but she, as we talked, she said, you know, I get kind of lonely in here. Would you come back and visit me? And I said, sure. I get off every day at 3 o'clock. I worked at Jerry's Deli, which was actually a walk away from both here and a walk away from the hospital that she was at, because I would always take the bus to work. And I started going there, and we would just hang out for an hour. I would go there after work and we'd talk, and I think she just liked the fact that I was young and had energy, and I knew old Hollywood history and everything. And so she was there actually because she had gotten pneumonia, and I believe she was in Cedars-Sinai. She got pneumonia, was in Cedars-Sinai, and had went into a coma and lost the ability to walk. So when she recovered, they brought her to this rehabilitation hospital, and she was supposed to go there to learn how to walk, which is when I met her. The thing was that she was a celebrity most of her life, since like her teens. She was a golden age actress, and so once she got in there and everybody fawned all over her, she didn't want to learn how to walk because she was the big fish in a small pond again. She loved it there. So they'd come into her room and try and get her to walk, the physical therapist, and she'd start tearing up and say she didn't feel good, or she was weak, or her legs hurt, or whatever. And then her favorite physical therapist was told he was no longer allowed to work with her because they thought that it was gonna look like fraud to the insurance because she was making no progress. And so when he told her that, she said, no, I'll start working on it now. I'll start learning how to walk. And he just said, Shelley, it's too late. They've already taken me off your case. So she looks at me when he's telling her, I was in the room, and she looks at me and she says, I want out of this place. I want to get out of here. I don't want to be here anymore. And her birthday was coming up, and I said, well, you've been talking about wanting to have like a birthday party or something. Why don't you get out of here and we'll have a birthday at your house? I'd love to see your house. So she had talked to the relative of hers that was in charge of, you know, kind of her well-being. And that relative said, okay, if you can start walking again, then you can have a party at your house. This was actually the entryway to her house. Her address was 457. You can still see the numbers right up there. So I show up to visit her the next day, and I walk in, I see the nurse, and I go, how's she doing? She goes, she got up and walked twice today. I said, no way. She goes, she wants out of here. So for 2 weeks, Shelley got up and she was walking, and all she cared about was getting out of there. And so one day I'm there visiting her, she said, I'm getting out of here tomorrow, and then the next day we're having my birthday party. So I need your help. You have to come here and help me because they're gonna take me home in a van, and I need you to come here and take all of my stuff. So my friend Michael, who you guys have met, he was in my band at the time. We came and picked up all of Shelley's stuff, and they brought her home here, and we hung out with her and everything. And the next day we had her, I believe it was her 83rd birthday party. I'm gonna call these people and ask them if there's any way they could let me do a walkthrough, because I see that there's stuff still in there, like on the second floor. There's still artwork in there. That was actually her parents' room. But there's still, yeah, it looks like the windows are gone, but there's still, can you see that? There's still artwork in there. So we put together this party, and we did in fact have her birthday party. I will show you some photos here of me and Shelley and Martin Landau, and then Robert, I forget what his last name was. He was Diane Ladd's husband. But we had her party here. She was in great spirits. A handful of her friends came, famous friends, you know. But it was the next year, and I'll tell you some stories about this place, but the next year when we had our party, it was a much more star-studded event. People like Shirley Jones were here, and Jane Russell made an appearance, and Taylor Negron, Martin Landau, all those people. And I'm over in this backyard getting something off the hors d'oeuvre table, and all of a sudden, actually, let's go over and I'll show you the fence that it happened at. It's right around the corner where her garage was. Well, her garage is gone. Her garage is already gone here. That was actually her bedroom, now that I'm back here. Her bedroom was the very, very back corner. And then these windows over here, if I remember right, were the kitchen. And like I said, I never went up there. That was her parents' place. And then I heard some stories about someone that was taking advantage or was living up there and everything. And that was kind of when I came around. So you see, anyway, this fence, okay? So I'm on the other side of it, kind of where this plant would be hanging down, where the bushes kind of meet. There's a little separation. I'll show you if I can. So like kind of right there, right in front of that window, I was there getting an hors d'oeuvre, and popping right up over these bushes was Robert Blake. Maybe 2 or 3 months after he had been acquitted of being accused of murder, I just about jumped through my freaking skin, because he, you know, when we saw him in the trial, he'd been dyeing his hair black and everything, and I think everybody kind of assumed that he did it. And then all of a sudden he pops up here, his hair is straight white, and he walks in and people start walking up to him like nothing had ever happened. Like there's like, hey Robert, good to see you, how's it going? So I walk over to Shelley, and I'll show you where Shelley was. So Shelley's kind of like right over here at a table, because she was in a wheelchair, and so they just, you know, but she didn't want to be seen in a wheelchair, so she had them bring her out, and I think she got into a regular chair and was sitting by the table, and people would go take pictures with her. So this had all happened, me and Robert Blake, right back here. I come up here to sit with her, to take a photo with her, and I go, whisper in her ear, I go, hey, did you know Robert Blake's here? And she said, yeah, who invited him? She didn't mind he was there, but she definitely was not the one that invited him. So when I started coming here, you can see the front door. I showed you the... Hello. I guess they're looking for me. The front entryway, when you would walk up the sidewalk, was right up here. The reason she bought this house was because she had first got an apartment, and her parents were living with her, and she felt like she needed some more space. So she moved out and let them keep the apartment, and she moved in with Marilyn Monroe. Now, while she was living with Marilyn, she up and went and got married to Vittorio Gassman in Italy. And I think she got married in Italy, if I'm not mistaken. And when she came back, she was like, well, we can't live together. And I think maybe even Marilyn was getting married at that time too. But she was like, okay, so I got to get my own place. So she found this place, and she wanted this. I think at the time it was kind of like a temporary solution, because she knew that Vittoria wanted to have a baby, and they were going to get pregnant right away, and she wanted her parents to be in the same house because she was going to continue acting, and wanted them to watch her daughter so they could all be a family. You know, she didn't want to be separated. And I remember her telling me that she would have like someone that would, like a housekeeper that would help take care of her daughter a little bit as well, but she said she would only hire them for 1 year at a time, because she realized if they stayed longer than a year, then they really got attached, and it wasn't so much a job, and it became kind of like a family, and that probably wasn't the best idea. Although she did have one woman that worked for her for like 20 years, so that was like the one exception, that she did keep one person that was really great to her. But when I started coming here, I remember going in, that was the door. You'd enter like through this little walkway. At the time, we put a wheelchair ramp so she could get in there, because she was in a wheelchair. But I remember going in there and then sitting in, because she was in her room the first time I came over to like have lunch with her. And I remember, if this is the entryway right here, off to here was like a sitting room. That was like the living room, and there was you know, there was like a record player, a lot of books, there was a little table with a phone on it in there, and I want to say like a piano or something. And I remember sitting there by the phone, and she came out because we were going to go to lunch, and she said, that's where Elvis used to sit. And I said, huh? She said, yeah, when Elvis and Natalie Wood were dating, Natalie's mom didn't trust her to go out unchaperoned, so I would be their chaperone. So Elvis would show up here at my house, said he would park his Cadillac out front, and he would have a couple of his boys, the Memphis Mafia, I assume is who she meant, and she said to keep him busy, Elvis would have them bring bags of manure, and they would be out here putting manure on her lawn, is what she told me. And she said, and then Elvis, while they were doing that and waiting for Shelley to get done getting ready, because she said this specific instance was when they were going to go to the movies, she said he sat in here on her phone and ran up her phone bill talking to his mom in Memphis. And I said, Elvis, you're gonna run up my bill. And he goes, don't worry about it, Shelley, I'll pay for it. She said he never did pay for it. But the phone, I remember at the time, the phone that was there, I said, is this the phone that he called her on? And she said, yep, that's the same phone. I couldn't believe it. Like an old, like, you know, rotary dial kind of phone. But also in here, I remember one day I came over to visit her, and we would watch movies. If we watched any of her movies, she always wanted them turned off before her death scene, because she almost died and everything. She never would watch that part. But I remember one day she said, hey, I'm gonna go to Dan Tana's for New Year's. And Dan Tana's is like, you know, across the street behind this building. So it was super close. And it's a nice fancy restaurant and everything. And she said, I need something good to wear, something nice out of my closet, but I've lost so much weight, because she wouldn't eat. That was the other thing. A lot of times she wouldn't eat because her teeth had went bad, and the dentures that she had, she didn't like to wear because she said they hurt. And they kept telling her, well, you have to wear them, and then you'll get used to them and they won't hurt. But she didn't like to do that. So a lot of times she just wouldn't eat. But I remember she says, I need something that'll look good, that'll fit. And I go in her closet in her bedroom, and I'll be danged if I don't find like an entire box of her old 8x10 photos from like when the old studio days. And I'd start looking, I go, oh my gosh, Shelley, can I have this one? And she started looking at it, she said, if you can find anything that are doubles, you can have them. So I got a couple of those. And then as I'm rooting around looking for stuff in there, I find a busted up green oxidized Emmy Award for something like a TV movie she had won. And I go, what happened here? It's like busted up and oxidized, broken. She said, I think I got mad one time and threw it against a wall. Jeez. Crazy. But also in this house, one of my favorite things was in that room where Elvis made the phone call and everything. She had on display her bust of Ronald Colman from when she made her first like big movie. And he was huge. He was a huge star, and she was like terrified to be in a movie with him. And I think if I remember right, that was the story she told me, where like she had a very simple line and it took her like 60 takes to get it because she was so nervous. And he finally just like got up to her and said, Shelley, it doesn't matter how many takes it takes for you to get this. You're not going to get replaced. You earned this part, and you're going to do this part. And that made her comfortable. And at the end of the production, he gifted her the head of him from the movie. So she always had it in there on display. And I remember it had like pencil, where someone had outlined all the features in pencil. And I asked her what that was about, and she said her daughter did it when she was younger. But she also, here I would look through her books, and sometimes I would find interesting stuff and ask her if I could borrow it to read it. One day I remember finding A Streetcar Named Desire, and a bunch of the stuff was underlined in there. And I asked her what this was, and she said, and like the pages have been pulled out and bobby pinned together, and she said, oh, that's my script from when I was in A Streetcar Named Desire. And I started looking through it, and then it's signed out to her from Tennessee Williams, and she said, you can just have that. You can have it. I go, really? She said, yeah, when I die, they're just gonna sell all my stuff anyway. I'd rather you have it. And that's what she felt about this house. When we were driving over here, I made it a point to like show you how many like kind of high-rise apartments there are, because she said when she moved to this neighborhood, it was all duplexes, it was all families, and she just watched over time all of them get bought up and turned into this. And so she always knew, she'd always say, as soon as I die, they're gonna tear down my place, and because it's a nice corner lot. That's what she'd say. It's a nice corner lot. They can get a lot of money for that, a couple $1 million bucks. I go, couple million? Way more than that. But it's still here. I mean, she's been gone for over a decade, almost 15 years, and it's still here. And when I ask about it from mutual friends, from what they told me that one of her doctors bought it and was going to renovate it, but it looks like he never did. Probably what he did was bought it as a real estate investment, knowing it was her house on a corner lot, and just decided to hold on to it, and because it's probably just going up and up and up in value. But this was her loving home. I don't think she would consider anywhere else her home but this place. So I'm really glad that it's, at least for now, still here. I'm gonna contact them and ask them and kind of plead my case and see if maybe there's any way someone will consider letting me do a walkthrough of the house and I can at least show you some of that stuff. I would love to do that, just in her honor. You know, this is totally not exploiting her. This is what she would want. She, you know, the thing is that the old celebrities loved being celebrities, and she was one of those people. She loved answering her fan mail. She answered it pretty much every day. Everything that was sent here, they would open up the package for her, lay it out, tell her, and then she would sign it, and they would tell her what, you know, what they wanted it signed by and everything, because she couldn't see that well sometimes. But she, to me, was just such a nice lady. When it was my 23rd birthday, she called me at work and said, "You're gonna come visit me today." And I was kind of like depressed because nobody knew it was my birthday. And I said, "I mean, I guess I can if you want to." She said, "Yeah, come on over." So I went over there, and she had presents for me. She got me like a film noir book, and she was in the book, and she wrote this really nice message and wrote a really nice card for me and stuff. And I just thought that was so big for me, because like I said, nobody that I worked with knew it was my birthday. I never bothered to tell friends that it was my birthday or anything. I don't know why, I just never did. And somehow she remembered. I must have said in passing like a week before that the next week was my birthday on Thursday, so I may not visit her. And somehow she remembered, or her assistant remembered, and she really made it special. She always said, "Whenever you go out, tell everybody you're my son." I said, "Shelley, you're 60 years older than me. I think it'd be more convincing if I told them you're my grandma." She goes, "I don't want to think of myself that old." So I'll see if I can arrange while I'm here in Los Angeles. Maybe they'll let me do it. If not, you know, this was a tribute that I'm happy with getting to share with you guys. But I also want to go visit her grave over at Hillside Cemetery. So let's go visit Shelley. If this is the last time I see your house, Shelley, goodbye. We had some fun times here. A lot of great conversations. Honest to God, that lady believed in me probably more than anybody else I knew at that time in my life. Other than maybe Michael, she always said, like, you are going to do something, and the older you get, the better you will get, she always told me. I did call the Demolition number, and it says they don't accept phone calls. That's not a good sign. Right there is the grave of Al Jolson. I always have to point this out because Shelley's dad used to sing Al Jolson to her when she was little, and she always loved it. So when her parents passed, she made sure that they were buried here, right over here by Al Jolson. And she would always tell me that when she passed away, she was going to be buried over there as well. Now, she's not right directly beside them, but she is off to the right of this monument to Al, this big fountain. John's loving that fountain. You're loving that fountain, aren't you, big guy? As soon as I rolled down the window, you jumped up to see it. It always takes me forever to find her up here, but I have a feeling today I'm gonna find her quicker. Yep, did not take long at all. There you are, you lovely lady. Beloved mother, grandmother, and actress, Shelley Winters. The one and only. And my friend. 2006. Last time I saw her, I feel like, you know, sometimes people just kind of decide that they are done, and I feel like she did. When Marlon Brando asked, and she said, I'm ready to go too. And it wasn't too long, maybe just a couple of weeks, that I was working. Actually, I was doing a delivery over at Cedars-Sinai, and I was waiting for an elevator, and they wheeled her through like the ground floor, and I saw her, and I was like, When did you come in here? Like, what? I thought you were home. She said, oh no, they brought me in. I said, well, when I get off work, I'll come visit you. And she said, no, that's okay. You don't have to come visit me anymore. And I was like, what? She said, yeah, you don't have to come visit me anymore. And then she ended up getting transferred to a different hospital where she passed away. Her only daughter decided who got to come to the funeral, and I was not one invited, so I did not get to come say goodbye. But I feel like without her confidence in me and just kind of always giving me that idea that even if things weren't working out now, they will in the future, that I had something, I feel like that, her confidence in me always was something that made me not give up. And I remember there were times that I was gonna make decisions, and my grandpa's pretty old school, you know, comes from the old world of like having a job that you work at for 20, 30 years, retire from and everything. And I remember I was gonna get a real job or give it a try acting. And I remember talking to him, and he said, well, Shelley thought you had some talent. I think you ought to give it a shot. I think a real job will always be there for you, but I think you ought to give being an entertainer a shot. And eventually I found vlogging, which was something I could do on my own. Talking about history, talking about all the things that she and I used to talk about together. So I thank you so much, Shelley Shrift. So when she became an actress and they wanted to change her name, they said, what's your mother's maiden name? And she said, Winter. So they decided to go Winters. And they asked her who her favorite author was, and she said Mary Shelley, and so it became Shelley Winters. Well, my friends, we're gonna call it a day. Thank you all so much for coming on this little jaunt down memory lane, visiting my friend, just kind of thinking about my memories here in Los Angeles and all those years, and my early 20s knowing her. Kind of amazing the people that I've gotten to meet in the time that I was out here, and kind of the dreams I continue to get to fulfill. And I thank people like her, especially her, for giving me confidence to do that. Thank you all for watching this. Thank you all for subscribing, and we will see you next time. Have a great night. Rest in peace, Shelley. And to you all, goodbye.